Hello students, I hope you and your family is good at home. As we all know that in previous lecture we have already discussed about the theoretical introduction of not-for-profit organization. Today in this lecture we will study about the different basic terms used in the not-for-profit organizations. There are so many terms which are used in the final accounts of not-for-profit organizations. Most of the terms are similar to the terms that are used in the final accounts of the sole proprietorship. And there are some other terms also which are not used in the profit organization, which are only used in the not-for-profit organizations. And today we are going to discuss those terms which are only used in the not-for-profit organizations. And here are these terms. The very first term is the subscription. Subscription is a regular income to the not-for-profit organizations. These are the incomes which are received from the members of the organizations. The members of the not-for-profit organizations pay every year a number of amount to the organization for its proper working, and that amount which is paid by the members of the organization is known as subscription. It is a regular income to the organization, so it is of the revenue nature, so it is shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. Now second one is life membership fees. Life membership fees is that fees which is received by the organization once in the lifetime of the member. As the name shows of this term, life membership fees means the member pay for the only one time to the organization. So it is of the capital nature because it is only paid once by the member, so it is shown on the liability side of the balance sheet. Now, endowment fund. Endowment fund is that amount which is received by the organization from any other person for a specific purpose. It means that the amount which is received as endowment fund is to be utilized against only for that purpose for which it is received. So this amount is of the capital nature, so it is to be shown on the liability side of the balance sheet. Now, next term is entry fees or admission fees. Entry fees is that amount which is paid by every new member on his admission. There is always a dispute on the treatment of the entry fees because some experts that every new member has to pay this amount only once in his lifetime, so it is to be considered as a capital nature item and shown on the liability side of the balance sheet. But some experts said that new members always came to the organization, so that is why it is a regular income to the organization and it is to be shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. So every organization makes the treatment of the entry fees according to its provisions. If there is no provision about the treatment of the entry fees, then it is to be considered as a revenue nature item and shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. If it is clearly mentioned in the provisions of the organization that entry fees is to be considered as a capital nature item, then it is to be shown on the liability side of the balance sheet. Now, donations. Donations is that amount which is received by the organization from any person or government or any other firm or company. These donations are utilized for the welfare of the society. These donations are of two types, and the treatment of the donations is depends on the type of the donation. The types of donations are specific donation and general donation. Specific donations are those donations which are received for a specific purpose. For example, donation for hall, donation for swimming pool, donation for tournament, etc. These are the examples of the specific donations. These donations are to be utilized against that specific work only for which it is received. So that is why these donations are considered as a capital nature transactions and are shown on the liability side of the balance sheet. Journal donations are those donations which are received for any journal purpose. It means there is no specific work for these donations. So that is why these donations can be utilized against any work. These type of donations are journal and these donations are received by the firm regularly throughout the year. So these are to be considered as a revenue nature transaction, and general donations are shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. Now next one is legacy. Legacy means when any person after his death donates all of his property to the organization, then the property which is received by the organization of that deceased person is known as legacy. Now, next is sale of old assets. The treatment of the sale of old assets is same as we have done in the profit and loss account in the plus one class. Now, the same as the treatment of the sale of old assets is done in balance sheet. But if there is any profit or loss on sale of those assets, then it is to be shown in the income and expenditure account. If there is any profit on the sale of the assets, then it is to be shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. And if there is any loss on the sale of the asset, then it is to be shown on the debit side of the income and expenditure account. Next is sale of old newspapers. Sale of old newspaper is a revenue nature item because it is done on the regular basis. So that is why any receipts from the sale of old newspaper is a revenue nature item and is to be shown on the credit side of the income and expenditure account. Last one is payment of honorarium. Payment of honorarium means any payment made to any outsider of the organization, means any person who has done any work for the organization but not the member of the organization, and payment made to that person is known as payment of honorarium. It is a revenue nature expense to the organization, so it is to be shown on the debit side of the income and expenditure account. So these are some terms which are used in not for profit organization. You guys better understand these terms properly so that you can do your chapter properly without any problem. If there is any problem or any queries, you can call me or WhatsApp me. And at last I would like to say, stay home, stay healthy. Thank you.